Many people think of chores as nothing more than obligations, washing dishes, folding laundry, or sweeping the floor. These tasks often feel like distractions from what we truly want to do. We rush through them, eager to move on to something more enjoyable. But what if I told you that these simple tasks can be a hidden source of happiness? Happiness does not always come from big achievements or exciting experiences. It often comes from small, quiet moments, the ones we hardly notice. When we change our attitude toward daily tasks, we can find joy where we least expect it. Think about washing a dish. Most of the time we see it as just another thing on our to-do list. But if you slow down and really focus on it, the experience changes. Feel the warmth of the water on your hands. Notice the smooth surface of the plate. Watch as the soap bubbles form and disappear. The simple act of washing becomes something peaceful, something real. There is no need to rush. There is no need to think about what comes next. In this moment, all that matters is the dish in your hands. This is how happiness can be found, not by chasing after it, but by being present in whatever we are doing. Sweeping the floor is another example. We often see it as just removing dust, something we must do to keep our home clean. But sweeping can be more than that. It can be a way to clear our mind, to feel the rhythm of movement, to appreciate the space we live in. Each stroke of the broom is a moment of life. When we recognize this, even an ordinary task can bring a quiet sense of satisfaction. Many people believe happiness is something we must search for, something that comes from the outside. But in truth, happiness often comes from the way we see things. If we treat simple chores as meaningless, they will feel that way. But if we see them as opportunities to be present, to engage with life as it is, they can become moments of peace. There is no need to escape from ordinary tasks. Instead, we can step into them fully. And when we do, we may find that joy has been there all along, waiting for us to notice. Many people dislike repetition. Doing the same thing over and over again can feel boring, as if life is stuck in a cycle with no progress. We seek variety, excitement, and new experiences to keep us engaged. But what if repetition is not something to escape from, but something to appreciate? Repetition is a natural part of life. The sun rises and sets every day. The waves continue to touch the shore. We breathe in and out again and again. These things do not lose their value just because they happen repeatedly. Instead, they create a rhythm, a sense of stability and continuity. The same is true for our daily tasks. Cooking, cleaning, walking the same path each morning. These actions may seem unimportant, but they shape our lives. They are not just things we do. They are part of who we are. Imagine a person who sweeps the temple grounds every morning. Each day, the same broom, the same movements, the same routine. To an outsider, it may look like meaningless labor. But to the one sweeping, each stroke of the broom is an act of care. Each morning, the temple is cleaned, not because it will stay clean forever, but because the act itself holds value. The beauty of repetition is that it allows us to go deeper. When we do something once, we may not notice much. But when we do it many times, we begin to understand it in a new way. A musician plays the same piece again and again, not because they must, but because each time reveals something different. A gardener waters the plants daily, not as a mindless habit, but as an act of patience and devotion. Repetition also teaches us that nothing is exactly the same, even when it appears so. No two breaths are identical. No two mornings feel exactly alike. The world is always changing, and so are we. Instead of resisting repetition, we can embrace it. We can see it not as a dull obligation, but as a way to deepen our connection with life. When we do, The ordinary becomes meaningful. A simple task, repeated every day, becomes a quiet ritual, a moment of peace in an ever-moving world. When we stop searching for constant novelty and instead learn to appreciate what is already in front of us, we may find that meaning has been here all along, hidden in the rhythm of daily life. In today's world, our minds are often scattered. We wash the dishes while thinking about tomorrow's tasks. We walk down the street while checking our phones. Even when eating a meal, we may be distracted by thoughts of the past or worries about the future. In this way, we move through life without truly being present. But what happens when we give our full attention to what we are doing? Even the simplest actions can become rich experiences. Consider drinking a cup of tea. If we drink it while reading the news or planning our day, we hardly notice it. But if we slow down and truly focus, the experience changes. We feel the warmth of the cup in our hands. We see the gentle movement of the steam. We notice the subtle taste, the way the liquid touches our tongue. The act of drinking tea becomes something complete, something satisfying. This is true for all tasks. Whether we are sweeping the floor, washing clothes, or walking up the stairs, every action offers an opportunity to be fully present. Presence does not require anything special. It is not about adding anything to the moment. It is about letting go of everything unnecessary. There is no need to force ourselves to concentrate. Instead, we simply return to what is happening right now. Many people believe happiness is found in extraordinary moments, but in reality, happiness is often found in paying attention to ordinary things. The sound of water running from a faucet, the feeling of the wind against our skin, the quiet rhythm of our footsteps. These are the small details of life that we often overlook, yet they are always available to us. Being present in our actions also helps us see their value. When we rush through a task just to finish it, we treat it as an obstacle. But when we bring our full awareness, we realize that each action, no matter how small, has meaning. Folding clothes is not just about making them neat. It is an act of care for ourselves and others. Cooking a meal is not just about feeding the body. It is a way of bringing warmth into life. Life is not something separate from these small tasks. It is made up of them. And when we are present for them, we are present for life itself. The next time you find yourself lost in thought while doing something simple, take a moment to come back. Feel the action. Notice the details. You may discover that even the most ordinary task contains something beautiful, if only we are there to see it. In modern life, we often search for ways to make things easier. We invent machines to do our work, create shortcuts to save time, and look for ways to avoid effort. While convenience has its benefits, we sometimes forget that effort itself can bring a deep sense of satisfaction. Think about preparing a meal. It is easy to buy something pre-made or order food with the push of a button. But when we cook a meal ourselves, something changes. We choose the ingredients carefully. We pay attention to the colors, the smells, the textures. We use our hands to chop, stir, and arrange. When the meal is finally ready, it is not just food. It is something we have created. The act of cooking gives meaning to the meal, and eating it becomes a richer experience. Effort connects us to what we do. When we put care into something, we naturally feel more engaged. Sweeping a floor is not just about removing dust. It is an act of maintaining a space. Folding clothes is not just about organization. It is a moment of care for ourselves and others. Writing a letter by hand takes longer than sending a quick message, but it carries a warmth that cannot be replaced. Happiness is not always found in what is easiest. It is often found in what we give our attention and energy to. When we invest ourselves in something, we form a relationship with it. A gardener feels joy, not just because of the flowers, but because of the time spent watering, pruning, and watching them grow. A musician finds pleasure not only in performing, but in the hours of practice that lead to that moment. Effort teaches us patience. It reminds us that not everything needs to be rushed. We live in a world where speed is valued, but some things require time to be meaningful. A homemade gift, a handwritten note, a carefully prepared dish. These are small things, yet they bring great happiness, because they carry the presence of the person who made them. We do not need to avoid effort. Instead, we can embrace it as a path to deeper satisfaction. The next time you find yourself doing something that takes time and care, notice how you feel. Notice how the process itself can be fulfilling. When we give ourselves fully to what we do, happiness is not something we have to chase. It is something that naturally arises from our effort. Many people spend their lives chasing perfection. We want our work to be flawless, our homes to be spotless, and our actions to be without mistakes. But this endless pursuit of perfection often leads to frustration, stress, and disappointment. No matter how hard we try, things rarely go exactly as planned. But what if imperfection is not something to fix, but something to accept? Imagine sweeping a floor. No matter how carefully you sweep, dust will return. Even if you clean every corner today, tomorrow there will be more to clean. This does not mean your effort is wasted. It simply means that life is always moving, always changing. Instead of fighting against this reality, we can learn to flow with it. Imperfection is natural. Look at the trees. No two branches grow in exactly the same direction. Some leaves have spots, some are torn, yet the tree is still beautiful. A handmade bowl may have slight unevenness, but this is what makes it unique. A melody played on an old instrument may have slight variations in tone, yet these imperfections add warmth and character. Our daily tasks are the same. When we cook a meal, it may not look like a perfect dish from a restaurant, but it carries the effort and care we put into it. When we fold laundry, not every piece will be perfectly smooth, but that does not reduce its usefulness. When we speak, we may not always find the perfect words, but that does not mean our message lacks meaning. Accepting imperfection does not mean being careless. It means recognizing that mistakes and variations are a natural part of life. It means letting go of unnecessary stress and finding peace in the way things are. When we stop demanding perfection from ourselves and others, we create space for kindness and understanding. A child's drawing is beautiful not because it is technically perfect, but because it expresses something real. A conversation is meaningful not because it is perfectly structured, but because it comes from the heart. Life itself is imperfect, yet it is full of beauty. The sound of rain is not a perfect rhythm, yet it is calming. The shape of a mountain is not symmetrical, yet it is breathtaking. If nature embraces imperfection, why shouldn't we? The next time you feel frustrated because something is not perfect, take a breath. Look at it again. You may find that, just like the trees and the mountains, the beauty of life lies not in its perfection, but in its uniqueness. Many people believe happiness comes from extraordinary moments, achievements, celebrations, or rare experiences. But if we wait for these special moments to bring us joy, we may spend much of our lives feeling unsatisfied. True happiness is not found in rare events. It is discovered in the small moments that fill each day. Think about how you begin your morning. Do you rush through your routine, thinking about the day ahead? Or do you take a moment to feel the warmth of the water on your face, to notice the quiet stillness before the day begins? The way we approach these simple moments shapes our experience of life. When we wash a dish, sweep a floor, or prepare a meal, we have a choice. We can see these actions as meaningless chores, or we can see them as opportunities to be present, to care for ourselves and those around us. The difference is not in the task itself, but in how we approach it. Bringing this awareness into daily life does not require extra time or effort. It simply means paying attention. It means noticing the feeling of warm tea in your hands, the sound of birds outside the window, the rhythm of your breath as you walk. It means allowing each moment to be complete, rather than rushing through it to get to the next. This way of living does not change what we do. It changes how we experience it. Folding laundry is no longer just a task. It becomes a moment of care. Walking from one place to another is not just a necessity. It becomes a time to feel the world around us. Even waiting in line can be a moment of stillness rather than impatience. Life is made up of countless small moments. If we ignore them, waiting for something bigger, we miss most of our lives. But if we learn to appreciate them, we discover that happiness is not something distant. It is already here, in the ordinary moments we so often overlook. The next time you find yourself rushing through the day, pause. Take a breath. Look around. Notice the small details of this moment. When we bring awareness to the simple things, we realize that life itself is a gift, and happiness is not something we need to chase. It is something we can find right here, in the ordinary tasks of everyday life. As we have seen, happiness does not come from chasing after something distant. It is not found only in great achievements or rare moments. Instead, it is woven into the fabric of everyday life, hidden in simple tasks, in quiet moments, in the care we bring to each action. A life filled with joy does not require anything extraordinary. It simply requires presence. When we fully engage with what we do, even washing a dish or sweeping the floor becomes meaningful. When we let go of the need for perfection, we find beauty in imperfection. When we put effort into small things, we feel a deep connection to life itself. There is nothing we must achieve, no special technique we must learn. The path to happiness is already in front of us, in the daily routines we often overlook. By seeing these moments clearly, by appreciating their quiet significance, we can transform the way we experience life. Perhaps as you go about your day, you will notice something you hadn't before, the way sunlight filters through a window, the comforting sound of running water, the simple pleasure of completing a small task. These moments, though ordinary, hold a quiet kind of happiness, waiting to be noticed. To those who have watched this video, thank you for your time and presence. Your support, through likes, comments, subscriptions, and super thanks, is deeply appreciated. It is a reminder that even in this digital space, we share a connection, a moment of reflection together. May you continue to find peace in simple things and joy in the life you already have.